When you hear sub, you may be thinking of a sub on Twitch, or a sub on YouTube,
or a submarine.
Point is, sub didn't really mean much in BFA, but now, now it's back, baby. And for the pre-patch, we got you covered in setting everything up. Changes, talents, rotations, openers, and a lot more. So hide your outlaws and assassinations because sub is finally back. Subtlety didn't go through major changes, so you can rest assured that you'll be playing your rogue more or less the same way. However, there's still things you need to know about, and do keep in mind that everything you see in here is subject to change as the beta is still going, and the best way to be on top of all the changes is to subscribe to our channel. We're all about properly researched class guides and updates, WoW news and podcasts, and it's a shame 80% of you who are watching these videos aren't yet subscribed, so come on, help us out. Subscribe and hit that notification bell. One of the more important changes is Shadowblaze getting off the GCD, meaning good times to put it up in a macro with Shadow Dance and symbols, but we'll get to that. As part of the unpruning, Slice and Dice is back, and you should be happy for it as it will increase your attack speed by 50%, granting you more chances of combo points and more energy regeneration from shadow techniques. Shadow Dance lasts 8 seconds now instead of 5, but it has been reduced to 1 charge baseline on a 1-minute cooldown for recharge, with the passive Deepening Shadow reducing that by 1 second per combo point spent. While that sounds like Shadow Dance uptime may take a hit, you will notice it is fairly similar to what it has been in Battle for Azerite though. You will no longer have Nightblade, but instead you get to replace that with Rupture, which will act as a bleed, as it always did, and although it will not provide a buff to your damage like Nightblade did, you will still need to maintain it on your target, but more on that in the rotation section. With Slice and Dice and Rupture both having a longer duration than Nightblade, you can expect to spend roughly the same time refreshing your maintainers finishers as before. Find Weakness is now baseline, so not a talent anymore, and it lasts a bit longer, having Cheap Shot and Shadow Strike applied as well as a backstab crit when dealt behind your target. Shiv is also back as one of the unpruned abilities, acting as an on-demand slow for 70% due to its increased effectiveness for crippling poison. Speaking of poisons, they are also back in the form of instant poison, wound poison, and crippling poison, so you better remember to always put them on. In PvE, you will mostly run with instant and crippling poison, and that's about it for pre-patch. More cool stuff won't make it to your action bars until you sneak into Shadowlands. Now for the talents! For the very first row, on single target fights and raids in general, Weapon Master should be your go-to pick as your Shadow Strikes and Backstabs have a 15% chance to hit your target twice. But if Dungeons is your thing and you're not the biggest fan of maintaining Slice and Dice, then go with Premeditation, as this will provide you with up to 10 seconds of Slice and Dice when using a Shadow Strike after you enter Stealth or Shadow Dance. And when you fight mob packs, you generally use a lot less your Shadow Strike, so there you go. Talent row numero 2 will bring you Night Stalker for all types of content, as this will bump your damage by 12% while Stealth or in Shadow Dance, and it works great with the Azerite trait The First Dance and Memory of Lucid Dreams. But don't worry, we'll cover those too. Just remember that this is for the pre-patch, and once you ding level 60 in Shadowlands, Shadow Focus will become the main option here, unless they nerf it, of course. Deeper Stratagem is your main pick for the third row, as having 6 combo points means more damage in all finisher departments on top of its integrated 5% buff for them, and energy generation isn't that big of an issue to go with Vigor. Mark for Death is also very good for single target, but it takes a bit more experience to play it optimally. Fourth row is all about survivability, and as always the most safe pick is Cheat Death, an ability that was designed specifically for Flame. Because you see, Flame has a natural born talent of either falling from high places or just being at the wrong place at the wrong time when a big purple old god schlong is about to hit. If you are not like Flame and can predict big hits and rarely fall to your death, then Elusiveness is your choice, as this will enable Feint to also provide 30% damage reduction from all sources, not just AoE. Oh, and if you want then healing logs or don't have any healers in world content, don't forget, Soothing Darkness is there to cover you. Next up, Brand the Weak is the most preferred pick here due to the 10% increased damage from all sources when you cheap shot or kidney shot, but do take note that Night Terrors is also great, especially in necrotic weeks or even skittish, because the slow from your shuriken storms will help both your party and your tank to kite safely, so be wary of that. If you prefer to sacrifice some globals in a Shadowlands to be a living stun machine, then Shot in the Dark is also a good pick. On the 6th row, you might be tempted to go with Dark Shadow. I mean, sure, it can provide a better burst, but overall, it will perform weaker than Enveloping Shadows and suffers from the loss of a second charge to buffer your cooldown reduction, making Enveloping Shadows the all-around best pick here. Not only will this provide you with an extra charge of Shadow Dance, but it will also add another 0.5 second to your 1 second reduction passive, making it a total of 1.5 second reduction per combo point spent, on Shadow Dance. Don't even get me started on Alacrity. Sub-rogues like to pretend this talent is hidden in the shadows given how little it fits between the other two thematically. And finally, the last talent row brings you Master of Shadows for raids, as it will net you 25 energy over 3 seconds when you enter stealth or start your Shadow Dance. And don't get me wrong, it's valuable in dungeons too, especially if you're just getting into subtlety, but if you feel comfy, then go with Secret Technique if Mythics is your jam. Sure, it's another button, but it is a finisher, so good synergy with Dipper Stratagem and Enveloping Shadows. Back from the days of Mythic Zool, you may remember Shuriken Tornado as the priority damage thing. That's still what it is, but that makes it somewhat more of a niche talent compared to the other options. That's it for talents, now let's check the stats and consumables! Now do keep note, we're talking here about stats in terms of pre-patch. This will change after you ding level 60 in Shadowlands, but for now, just prioritize item level over everything else, since agility is the main course you're after. Secondary stats are more or less close in value to each other, but as a general, go for mastery and versatility. This works fine in both raiding and dungeons, but if you really want to min-max, you have to sim yourself, as in many cases crit may be the top secondary for dungeons, for example. Then again, this is a beginner's guide, so let's focus on the basics for now. Keeping this in mind, get your daggers 1 Masterful Navigation and 1 Gale Force Striking to have that mastery proc and boost to your attack speed. Your rings should both have a Cord of Mastery, and any gem slot should be filled up by a Masterful Sea Current. Again, for all that juicy mastery, which will add so much to all your finishes. As far as food and drinks go, the Greater Flask of the Currents will add you an extra hour of extra agility, while the Abyssal Friar Risole will be the main dish for an hour of, extra mastery. Again, all these will be subject to change after level 60, so be sure to check back once the full launch happens. Well boys, there's no more corruption, and hopefully you have all the Azerite gear needed in order to do well in the Shadowlands pre-patch. For subtlety, in terms of stacking traits, the first dance remains the best one, as it will grant you 2 combo points when you go into Shadow Dance and provides you with a good chunk of haste, thus why you never heard anything about haste in the stats section. You also need 1 mandatory inevitability, because this will enable your Shadow Strike and Backstab to extend Symbols of Death by 0.5 seconds. For the rest of the slots, it's a good thing to consider stat providing traits like Heart of Darkness. Yes, it works, no need for corruption anymore. Clockwork Heart, or Trade Winds. More the First Dance or Blade in the Shadows can also be good fillers if you have to select from the spec-specific ring. In terms of inner traits, if you can get your hands on as many overwhelming powers as possible, that'd be great, because more haste is always welcome. But if not, Elemental Whirl and Blood Siphon are also pretty good to have for minor but important DPS boosts. Now for essences. In single target, World Vein Resonance is your prime contender, as this will net you a big ass boost to agility. But if you didn't farm island expeditions to get this, then Condensed Life Force is always a good pick, as you press it and forget about it, because that little Guardian of Azeroth will do its thing on its own. For miners, Crucible of Flame for that extra damage, Memory of Lucid Dreams for more energy gains and a bit of versatility too. And speaking of versatility, Conflict and Strife is also great to be considered here, but if you don't have it at rank 3, then take Breath of the Dying as a solid replacement. In dungeons, your main major slot will be filled by Focusing Iris. The now iconic beam is just too good, even in the pre-patch, for some major burst AoE. Miners are more or less the same, with a notable mention here to Purification Protocol replacing Conflict and Strife, as this will provide you with short passive AoE bursts of damage, not that big but still adding up in the higher keys. There is a lot to get into when it comes to subtlety, openers, and priority, but to get you started, on single target, you open up with Shadow Strike, then Slice and Dice. After this, you pop at the same time your unused Trinket, your Essence, Shadow Dance, Shadow Blaze, and Symbols of Death. I have a macro for all these in the description, so pretty nice. Follow this up with 2 Shadow Strikes, then Rupture, again 2 Shadow Strikes, then finally Eviscerate. For trash or dungeon mobs, your opener should again start with Shadow Strike, then Slice and Dice, then Symbols of Death and Shadow Dance at the same time, Shuriken Storm, then Secret Technique, Shuriken Storm again, then Eviscerate. You can use your Focusing Iris after you use Shadow Dance. A thing to note is to always prioritize your offensive cooldowns and remember to always pair up your Symbols of Death with Shadow Dance while maintaining Slice and Dice and Rupture. With Enveloping Shadows, you will usually be able to get in another Shadow Dance used between 2 symbols windows to avoid capping on the 2 charges. In AoE, while multi-dotting can be a DPS gain, you will probably find it more convenient not to keep up Rupture on all targets, but rather focus on the priority one, and once you fight 6+ mobs, you can forget about Slice and Dice. Rogue has been for the longest time a build and spend DPS class, well, among the first, right? So remember to always use your finishers at 5+ combo points. Shadow Strike is usable from stealth or during Shadow Dance, and it will be your top priority on generating combo points, while Shuriken Storm will replace it when facing 3+ targets. Outside of Shadow Dance, Backstab will be your main combo point generator, with Shuriken Storm replacing it against 2 or more targets. To get the best duration of your Slice and Dice, remember to always refresh it somewhere at a remaining 8 to 9 seconds. Oh, and one special mention, pre-pots are gone. Yup, this will take some getting used to, I guess. As I said, there is much more to rotations and openers when it comes to subs, so do yourself a favor and visit the Ravenhold Discord channel, where all the top rogues are eager to help out, and you can also check out Mystler's pre-patch guide from Wowhead from the description. Mystler is one of the top dogs in the Ravenhold Discord and has deep knowledge and experience on subtlety, on top of always helping us with all of our rogue guides, including this one. You can also check him out at twitter.com/Mystler. Much love for all the help, Mystler. And also, of course, we have to thank our Patreons for making all of these videos possible. Guys, thank you so much for all of the support. Remember, on top of all of these class guides, we're doing 2 a week now. You're also supporting the weekly WoW News show on cooldown and the MoCast podcast Beyond World of Warcraft, which is on Mondays, and also the stream. We have all of you wonderful viewers and followers and subscribers that are in the twitch.com/Marcelian Online. You can can join any of these. All the links are in the description: Patreon, Twitch, Discord. Thank you so much for watching the video up until this point. See you very soon. Now play Rogue.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.